everybody. Welcome to Final Boy Status, our podcast about horror movies. I'm your host for today. My name is Adam. My name is not Lanson, but we do have a Lanson here. Lanson Lappin, to be specific. How you doing,
Hello.
Lanson?
Good, man. Good.
Good that
Good to
you're
be.
here.
It's good to be here with some esteemed gentlemen.
And you know what? It's just me and Lanson this time. Wait, psych! We've also got Luke Haueter. Say what's up, Luke.
I have been not. I'm unwelcome, and I will depart.
Luke, come back.
Well, shit.
He's
asked
got
me
a
back.
good
I
research.
he asked me back, so I came back.
We didn't watch the movie. Only you did. What are we going to talk about?
I guess you're just gonna spend like roughly 3 hours talking about Jon Stewart.
Sure. Yeah.
And Salma Hayek. A lot of time talking about Salma Hayek. Thank you very
course.
much.
Of course.
Got to spend time. I want to deeply go into her cameo in Across the Universe. Want to talk about that for a long time.
Yeah. Good.
We got it set up. For those of you who are new, we are three average Joes watching scary movies and telling you guys or each other, because sometimes, maybe nobody listened to our podcast, but at the very least, each other, we are going to talk about how we would survive the horror movies we watch. Just like everyone at home does with your friends. You are eating popcorn and you say, that was the stupidest decision I've ever seen in my life. Why did they split up? Why did they have sex when there was a killer loose? Those are the two examples I could think of, but
Good. Yeah.
normal horror movie stuff. We do that here.
Yeah.
The movie this week is I had never heard of before last podcast, which was awesome. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It was about It Follows. Luke was like, you know what? Here's this movie called The Faculty. Let's do it next. And that was the first time I'd heard of it. Then I watched it starting yesterday and now today. I'm giving way too much detail to this, but yeah.
And how did you feel? Can you describe just like how you personally felt as the movie was going on?
Constipated. I don't know if that was related though. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Good to know.
Yeah, but I mean, before sitting down to the movie, of course, you did go to Taco Bell for a bit. Want to shout out our sponsors at Taco Bell?
Please.
They have the constipation guarantee. The
Yeah.
only thing that'll when it comes to this movie, the only thing that will keep you on the edge of your seat is constipation.
Yes, Taco Bell notoriously known for if you eat a lot of it, you will not poop for weeks. Your body will be blocked up like the Hoover Dam.
Their whole reputation. I mean, they tried to open a location in the Hoover Dam.
Right next to the gift shop.
No, like way down. Like,
oh dang.
Right in the middle of it.
They just have a Taco Bell logo as their button on the elevator. It makes the Taco Bell bell sound. Ding.
Yeah, just on one side there's a giant window that's just water, and then on the other side it's just overlooking this canyon because the water has been interrupted. You guys know how dams work.
Of course, yes. Science.
Seems like we all love the details today. Love going down the rabbit hole. So this will be a good one. Luke, you chose this movie. I would love to hear why you chose this movie, and then maybe give us a little synopsis of the movie, something you'd find on the back of a Blu-ray.
Yeah, absolutely. I can kind of knock out part of my reasoning while giving you a summary of this movie.
Okay.
So when I was a young lad in elementary school, I was really preoccupied with a book series called Animorphs. If anybody out there has read it, yeah, Lappin knows.
Yeah.
Lappin, like, Animorphs was like the first book I ever read that was like, hey, we're a kid's book, but like we can be fucked up. Like that's a thing we can do. And I think the premise of that book, obviously, there's a lot of different stuff going on, but one of the big swing main premises is that there are these worms that crawl in your ear and they take you over and they control your body, and your body becomes a vessel for these like parasitic worms. It's a very big swing for a kid's book, and it really stuck with me. And I remember while I was reading these books, my sisters had like a very small collection of, this is going to date things just a touch, but they had a small collection of VHS tapes that belonged just to my sisters, not to anybody else in the house. And so, of course, I was so fascinated with them, and I would spend time like looking through them and like reading the backs and being like, what are these like these movies held at arm's length, these movies that I'm not allowed near?
The forbidden section.
Exactly. Yeah, the forbidden fruit. And one of the movies happened to be The Faculty. And yeah, the back of the box, like VHS thing, revealed a very similar premise to Animorphs. So, of course, I was immediately like, I have to see this movie. I was also like 8 or 9. The movie's rated R. My sisters and my parents were like, absolutely, you will never watch this movie. But eventually you get older, you find it on a streaming service and you turn it on. I told you guys I wasn't sure if I'd seen the movie all the way through. After watching it for the podcast, I can say I've definitely seen it all the way through. It's just because I remembered all of it as it came at me. But so yeah, just like the premise on the back of the box was like these kids are at a high school and they believe that their teachers have alien worms crawling into their ears and taking control of their bodies. And so that was a big reason why the back of this VHS box is like ingrained in my memory. I can remember the images that were on it. I can remember the poster that was on the front. I remember like what I thought about it, and I primarily remember that I was like, that sounds like Animorphs. I have to watch that. As far as like other reasons I chose this movie, I think movies that I really love to revisit every once in a while are, and this movie fits firmly in this category. I love a movie that has an opportunity for subtlety and then runs in the opposite direction. And I think this movie is a perfect example of the type of thing that I'm talking about. I feel like if there was meant to be subtlety, it's hard to say whether or not the screenwriter intended subtlety, but if there was any subtlety intended, the director came in and was like, nah. And
Nope.
not saying that as a diss at all. This is an enjoying movie. It's like engaging to watch. But I really love, especially after watching a movie like It Follows, which is really kind of simplistic in a way, and it's really like heady and really psychological. And there are a lot of things that are like the name of the game in a movie like It Follows is subtlety. I wanted to follow that movie up with something that was like polar opposite, like very, very different feel, very different tone, and none of the subtlety that a movie like It Follows has. So that's why I wanted to do this movie.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad we're talking about something that mattered so much in your childhood, which is crazy because this is a very shocking movie. And it will
I never saw it
probably
as a
for
child. Never saw it as
Oh,
a child.
you said you grew up, and with streaming services, I was paying attention, I promise.
I don't think I actually saw this until I was 17, 18.
But at least even if you hadn't seen it, seeing the box and you're remembering the cover and the poster, like I get that. That's cool. Awesome. Well, let's just hit this off and talk about the things we liked, disliked, just kind of our general feelings about this movie. Afterwards, we will get into the specifics as far as decisions the characters make, decisions the bad guys make. But let's just hit our general thoughts about this movie. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen The Faculty. But what'd you guys think of it? Did you like it? Did you not like it?
Lanson, you go first.
Okay. So this is definitely a movie, in my opinion, that's fun to watch with friends and make fun of. So that's why I'm pretty stoked that we're talking about it today on the podcast. As far as if I liked it, probably not. Not really. It's I mean, it was just kind of funny to see a couple people like, oh hey, that's Usher, that's Josh Hartnett. What the crap? And just being like, I haven't heard of this movie, and then watching it and being like, oh, that's why. Anyway. But no, this is definitely a popcorn movie. It's fun to, again, as I said, watch with friends. It definitely encapsulates that late 90s horror teen movie feel, but yeah, I thought it was a fun time. Maybe not a great movie, but it was a fun time.
All right.
He was there for a fun time, not a long time.
Yes.
Yeah, it's I want to try and keep it concise, but I could ramble about this movie for so long. So obviously I already alluded to I have a certain fascination with this movie in that there's no subtlety whatsoever. It's sort of interesting though because like these characters are stereotypes that we got used to seeing, but at the time they weren't really stereotypes yet. And so it kind of is that weird thing of like it's both a pioneer and it also 100% just gets like lost in the wash. But I think it's also really interesting too because this is a Kevin Williamson script. So guy that wrote Scream, he took a story that a couple of other guys did, and then he wrote, or well, he took a script that a couple of other guys did, and he rewrote the whole thing, added scenes, cutted scenes, added new characters, completely like revamped the characters. So by the end, the other guys don't even get a screenwriting credit; they just get story credits. And there was even talk of him directing this apparently at one point, and he handed it off because he had a different movie that he wanted to direct that was based off an original idea he had. And so they bring in Robert Rodriguez, who was still pretty young in his career, but had hit a couple like pretty good home runs. So you have these two guys that have a certain like legendary status. Like Kevin Williamson has a certain like I mean this came out in the year 1998, so this is the year Scream 2 is coming out. I Know What You Did Last Summer 2 is coming out. Halloween H2O had come out the year before, also with Josh Hartnett.
Oh, yeah.
So Kevin Williamson at this point is like hitting home runs left and right. He's having a good time. But I do think that like after Scream, so many people bought scripts off him that he maybe wrote this movie in a shorter amount of time than he should have. But it's also the weirdness of like Robert Rodriguez has become a legendary director in his own right. So you got this weirdness of like these two very well regarded guys are kind of brought in on a bigger budget for a horror movie, but still not a large budget. And it kind of seems to me like they weren't really like given a lot of constraints. Like this wasn't a movie where like the producers were like hovering over their shoulders going, "Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that?" So it's kind of the weird thing of you get the feeling that both of these guys had like really intense freedom. And so this movie kind of becomes like a weird cautionary tale for what happens if like of how complete creative control can go wrong. Because it's so weird, it's so schlocky. And like I said, it's the opposite of subtle in every way. But I do think it's really fun. I'm not going to go to bat for this movie as like a high piece of art, but I think thematically something resonates with me of like I like the idea of they're not subtly at all juxtaposing assimilation and killing the unique parts of yourself. They're juxtaposing that with high school, where like high school is a place where you're almost encouraged to like kill the unique parts of yourself and assimilate. So it's not a subtle metaphor, but something about that resonates with me. And I think the actors are clearly just having a butt ton of fun making this movie. And I think that is something that kind of is infectious in its own way. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about this movie as if it's the greatest thing ever made. As you guys will hear as we go on, I have plenty of complaints, but I do keep coming back to this movie for whatever reason. From seeing the VHS box as a kid to, now I'm almost 24 and I've seen it a handful of times over the years. Like, it's kind of weird because it'll fall out of my mind eventually and I'll remember nothing about it, but I will keep coming back to it because the primary thing I remember about it is like, oh, that was fun. And I had a weird like connection with it as a kid. So I think it kind of earns a guilty pleasure spot on my list, and it may earn a guilty pleasure spot on the viewers list, or rather the listeners list. If this is a movie that you decided to check out because we were doing it, maybe this will become a sneaky little guilty pleasure for you. And I think that would be good fun if, to be at a party full of people who want to watch The Faculty and just go nuts. I think that would be fun.
Awesome. I'm down. Let's set it up. My thoughts about The Faculty, to be straight up honest with you guys, I really liked this movie.
Yes.
I don't know. It was very unexpected that I liked it, and I totally go with everything you guys were saying. It was pretty heavy-handed. Nothing in this movie is something we have never seen before. Actually, most everything in it we've seen before. But honestly, like, it was a ton of fun. I just enjoyed most of the scenes, the fun little scene with the cocaine or whatever, and the very much like the Thing where they're trying to figure out who it was. That was just kind of a fun little callback. I liked the grisly murders, even though it looked pretty hokey. The CGI / practical effects weren't really connecting, but it was still really fun. And I honestly thought, like, there's not a time where I was like, oof, that was a bad line delivery, or ooh, the act, like you said, the actors were having a ton of fun. Some of them were really great actors, and I thought they all just brought a ton of energy and fun to this movie. I liked it. It's not the best movie ever made. It's not a good movie in the sense that it's perfectly put together. But to me, which I think this conversation is probably a pretty subjective thing, it seemed pretty self-aware. I think, like, especially at the beginning, I watched it with Sarah, my girlfriend, and we both just started laughing when the camera would do this boom, boom, boom thing right into the coach's face where stuff started going down. And we're like, oh man, it's gonna be one of these movies. And it was a ton of fun. So I actually liked it a lot. The decisions were all not super great, and so I'm really excited to get into it because I would have done some different things. Some people were really dumb, and that's always fun for this podcast. But I don't know. I think this is the epitome of the movie that it's Halloween. You want something on in the background for some people just to hang out and watch and have a good time with. This is the movie. It's fun enough and not bad in a boring way at all. So I liked it.
Kaboom.
Kaboom. Well, we'll have plenty of time to talk about the maybe specific scenes we liked or disliked, but we want to do it in the context of actually surviving this movie. So this one's really interesting for the formula of the show because there's some killers, they've got some things going on, and there's some victims, which makes it really easy for us. So we usually start by talking about the killers or the antagonist or whatever is the bad thing that is threatening the lives of the characters. In this case, it's aliens. It's a parasite.
Some classic brain slugs.
Some classic brain slugs, body snatchers, what have you. Doing basically what aliens do in most every other movie, but it's a little different in this movie. They're kind of, while I was watching, I was like, these are like the anti-science aliens, where water, man, they just get off on water, man. They love that shit. So
that's the whole reason they want our bodies, man. We're just full of that. We're full of that stuff.
So honestly, the motivation of these aliens made more sense than the science aliens. They at least were like, this planet, this is a good planet, and they were right. So gotta give it to them. Let's start by talking about the aliens. What are some strengths, weaknesses, choices about the aliens that you thought were, whatever you thought, which is a great way to lead into that.
You got something in the cannon, Lappin?
I guess the most basic thing is that, they can look like somebody that is just in your everyday life. They can hide in plain sight, which, I guess is the most basic of answers, but, something to keep in mind in our survival situation.
Yeah, I think, like I said, just like thematically, it's not subtle, but it's something I do actually really like about this movie is like it so perfectly encapsulates that feeling of being a kid in school where there are just adults around who control your life and you just go along with it. So there's a scene where like the principal's like so and so and so and so and so and so come to my office, and you watch kids literally just line up to get infected, and you want to think you wouldn't be one of those kids, but at the same time, when you're in high school, you literally like the adults say jump and you go how high. So it's like I loved that this movie knew about that power dynamic and that these creatures were smart enough to use that power dynamic, to be like mandatory ear infections, and the students are like, okay, I'll go get my ear inspected. Go let Selma Hayek have a look at these ears. Oh, anybody got a Q-tip? I want my ears to be so clean for Selma. Oh, I don't know who that character was, but he will definitely be back later. But it's just like that was something that I thought was really smart about this movie, because I remember in high school kind of I don't know, like in high school I kind of questioned like why did they get all the adults and then the kids? Like you can do like a two-pronged attack, and to a degree I still think that might be the smarter approach. But looking at it like now as an adult, it's like there are a lot less adult people at the school, and they have power that is like they have a power dynamic with those kids that can really be used to your benefit. So spend your time getting the faculty, the relatively small faculty all infected, and then getting the kids becomes like a real breeze. And I think, yeah, the movie, that's something I respect about the antagonist in this movie, is I think the plan overall is not bad. So, yeah, strength, something in the strength category. I have a whiteboard over here. You guys can't see it, but it's definitely real. And I have in the strength category, I'm going to write what Lanson said. They love water. Go ahead and. Good. And then I'm going to write what Adam said. They can look like anybody.
Good.
I did say that. Yep.
And then I'm going to write what I said, bigger than what you guys said. I'm going to write understands power dynamic of high school. And I did it, and I wrote it that quickly. So
good job. Got some real good writing. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, you're good. Here's a thought that's not anyways, I don't know how to give it a prelude, but Elijah Wood goes on this rant to the character of Stokely, where he's like, what if Steven Spielberg and all these directors, they had these experiences and they knew it? And he was talking about how the aliens used media to make us think that aliens are all fictitious when they're actually real. And so anyone who hears about aliens, they're like, that's not real. And that the aliens actually did that on purpose. And in the movie, I was like, that was a hot take, Elijah. Like, where did that come from? Like, let's just start with the school. Let's get rid of all of our far out conspiracies. But thinking of it as a real strategy, I think it's a pretty good strategy for the aliens to be like, you know what? We're going to make this idea in the fiction of this planet that aliens are fake and part of movies, so nobody takes them seriously, and then we'll infect them and nobody's going to take it seriously. And honestly, pretty genius. I think that's I think that was a great strategy.
I do feel like that scene is kind of rendered moot by the end, though, because the alien queen has her monologue where she says like I was like traveling through space looking for a place to land, and I found this planet and it was perfect, and I found this school and it was perfect. So he has like this whole like riff where he's like, they've been planning this for years, but then like at the very end,
real. Yeah, okay. I forgot about that part.
I mean, I guess we can't say for sure. Like,
it never shows it really. Yeah.
I guess you could say that it's really just ambiguous, because there are multiple species of alien out there, like in theory. So it's possible that other aliens have been like saying, hey, this is hokum, and this alien just happened to show up and have that work to her advantage. But yeah, I think based off of what she says at the end, like the first thing she did was go to that school. So it's not like they've been here for years planning this, based off of what the monologue suggests. I don't know. Look, I'm going to be honest. in terms of how much I was paying attention to her monologue,
Oh,
hard
not
to
at all.
hard to pay attention. She's wandering around.
There were things going on.
Yeah, wandering around fully nude.
Yeah.
Josh Hartnett's being like thrown against lockers and bleeding everywhere. There's also tentacles in the back. So brief aside. There are all these tentacles in the background of the scene, like the entire time the scene is going on. But I thought the tentacles were the queen, except she's walking around in the buff in human form. So like what are those tentacles? Like are those just excess tentacles that can exist independently of her? Just something to have on hand, you know? It doesn't matter. But it matters to me.
Good.
Also,
Lanson, weigh in. Come on.
yeah.
Can never have too many tentacles. So good to bring spares.
It adds to the mood. And to give you the point of how ambiguous, I guess, the whole motivation is, she was the whole time saying stuff just to get them to trust her. So it all could have been BS anyways. So I guess the thing about this movie is we really don't know. I guess we know the motivation. They want to capture everybody because water and yum yum, but like how they did it. Was it Steven Spielberg or was it really just this random school in Ohio? I don't know.
We thought it was Steven Spielberg, but it was really Gary Busey.
Ooh, that makes more sense.
Boy, did that work well.
I will say I'm going to bring this up as a topic of conversation for you gentlemen. Having seen the movie a couple times now and knowing who the queen bee is, so to speak, may not have necessarily been going on with you guys because you didn't know about that ending, even though it was pretty obviously coming, but you may not have known. I'll give the movie the benefit of the doubt. Watching it through the last couple times, I really paid close attention to the fact that, like, I mean, especially at the end, right? Like, she gets Elijah Wood. She does infect Elijah Wood, like, very temporarily because she does, like, that slug spray where she just throws out, like, in every direction a butt ton of slugs. And it just makes me think, like, I mean, early on in the movie, she's alone in a closet with Josh Hartnett, does not take the opportunity to infect him. There are plenty of scenes where it's just the kids all alone in a room together. She could do her slug spray, get everybody infected right there, and these kids are no longer a problem. And it really like leaves me thinking, like, what is the motivation for like running around with these kids and like gaining their trust and like even being a part of this weird little rebellion against her species? Like, I don't know. What do you guys think? Is it like, I suppose I have potentially my theories, but I'm interested to see what you guys think if I ask the question.
I've got an answer. The parallel between her real character and her fake Atlanta character, I think it's pretty. It's on purpose, obviously, where she's like, "Ooh, I'm from Atlanta and I'm here and I need friends too, you know." And I don't know, maybe she met these kids and we're like, "Wow, these kids are kind of interesting," and she's enjoying herself a little bit, you know, making friends.
Yeah.
Being like, "Oh, this is fun. I will eventually get you." But it's kind of fun to see you guys scramble and have a hard time and I don't know. That might be a dumb answer, but that's
I
what
like
came to
it.
my
No,
mind.
it's good. It's very good. I think, I think it's just straight up greed and arrogance. She thought that she could just play mind games with these kids and toy with her food a little bit, maybe stir up the water a little bit. And yeah, it ended up biting her in the butt.
Okay. I don't think your idea is dumb, Adam, because truth be told, I genuinely, my theory is like sort of a combination of both of your things, where it's like one, like she quickly meets this group of kids who are all outsiders, and I think being literally an outsider, being an alien to this world, and like she sees the isolation that they feel within the high school, and I think she maybe actually genuinely empathizes with that, especially because like there's sort of a weird thing towards the end, right, where like Stan alien and then the Queen alien both genuinely like try to talk Stokely into voluntarily like joining. Like, you know, the queen is alone with Stokely for like a hot minute while the guys are going to get drugs from the car, which I love that that's a sentence that makes sense in the context of this movie. But like they're alone for like a solid minute. She doesn't immediately transform and infect her. She like has a conversation with her, and she kind of says like, "Well, did you ever think that maybe like what Stan's saying's right? Maybe this would feel better." And like some weird part of her like wants Stokely to want to be a part of this like community. So I think like both of you are right, and I think there is also an arrogance too of like, oh, like I admire that they're trying. It's not going to work, and I can intervene and stop them from succeeding. But like, it's kind of funny to watch them and like run around, and I kind of admire them. So I think it's a weird thing of both. Of like, she arrogantly assumes these kids can't bring her down, but also she kind of relates to them in a way, and like maybe actually does, in her own weird way, want to befriend them. I don't know. It really is hard to weigh in on because when like she flips the switch and becomes a big bad, she goes like hard big bad. So trying to relate to what she's thinking is near impossible. But I don't know. It is interesting to think about anybody who's seen this movie before and hasn't watched it through the lens of like, why doesn't she? Like, I don't know. It's fun to play around with and try to figure out what her motivation is and why she's with the group for as long as she is before she reveals herself. All worth thinking about.
It's a good question. I mean, it's a really good question. I did think about it when the reveal happened. I was like, I could be wrong, but I feel like there were scenes where people could have gotten infected that weren't infected by the end. But I'm glad you validated that because I couldn't think of any specifics.
Yerp.
Here's kind of a random one. They get infected in a very physical way that's very obviously wrong from a human point of view. So when Elijah Wood and what's her face are in that closet and they see something going on, they know immediately that something's going on. So I had the thought during that football stadium thing where they're all there and they're like, oh my gosh, everyone's here. Everyone's about to get infected. In my mind, I was like, you know what? I don't know, because if I think some people would see things happening with ears and blood and being like, I'm getting out of here. And so I feel like it does have to be something that happens behind closed doors, come into this room, come into this closet. And so the whole team up mentality is a pretty good defense, I think, even though they let go of that defense for no reason near the end in a lot of cases. I think it is something where it's like, okay, as long as we're together and there's numbers here, I think we got a chance of surviving.
And yeah, I mean, there's a shot towards the end of the movie where Usher, who is featured prominently in every poster for this movie, and I remember on the VHS box art, he's like front and center, which is really funny because he's barely in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a scene towards the end where he like full view of a crowd like dangles a worm down into another guy's helmet after tackling him.
Right.
And I'm like, we're supposed to act like nobody saw that? What the fuck? Like some guy in the crowd is like, it's the perfect taunt. He put a gummy worm in that guy's ear.
What do you want? It's football, bro. It's Ohio.
It's a classic Ohio football move. You defeat them and then you humiliate them with a little gummy worm.
Let's go Buckeyes. Good.
Oh yeah. I thought I had a point. Maybe did I have another point I was going to make? Oh, I credit due to the characters. Like, obviously, it's very much a nod to the blood test scene from The Thing, and weirdly enough, also kind of like a parody of it at the same time. But like, I'm not gonna like. Obviously, it doesn't really work out in their favor necessarily, but like, pretty smart of them to determine like, well, if we do the drug, like, if one of us is infected, we'll be able to figure it out. Right. It doesn't work for, I guess, the queen bee because she can like close her nostrils or whatever.
Whatever's convenient for the script.
Yeah, whatever like the the flashback shows that very clearly did not actually happen.
She, in full
the-
light of everybody, just unclips the bottom. It all falls down. She's like,
Yeah.
I did it.
Like, honestly, like, everybody was focused over on Fast and Furious, whatever her name is. So, like, I think if they just, like, had the line where she's like, did you really see me take it? Or were you distracted by what's her face? Like, I feel like that would have been enough. You didn't need to do a flashback where she closes her nostrils and then just like empties it in her lap or whatever. I will admit, like, the one, okay, something that caught my attention is that drug like real or not? Because the movie kind of vacillates between the two. Because at one point, Zeke says that it's like fake, right? He says it's just crushed up caffeine pills and a couple of other things he found around the house. And like the attitude of it is that it's like not real, but he can sell it to idiot high school stoners who think they're getting high from it. But then when people sniff it, they do get high, like during like the test scene. Like,
Yeah, does caffeine actually do that to you? I don't know.
I mean, in fairness, he calls it a diuretic, and I know that cocaine is a diuretic. So like if caffeine is a diuretic, then I guess a certain potency of it would have a similar effect to cocaine, but also cocaine wouldn't make you giggle your face off like they do, I don't think. Pretty sure cocaine is more like, I can write a screenplay. So I thought that was weird. I feel like the logic of the drugs was not there, clearly written by some guy who's never actually done drugs, Kevin Williamson. But like, I don't know. I guess it's a small thing and it probably doesn't matter that much, but I was a bit like, who did the research on this? Like, and furthermore, like, it was written very confusingly of like, is it a real drug or is it fake? Because the movie kind of tries to play it both ways. Like, Zeke is ripping off these idiot high schoolers with fake drugs, but then like a scene later they sniff it and it's like, oh, these drugs are real. Whoa, wowza.
That scene I actually liked a lot. I think there's something that didn't really go anywhere, but it kind of did show an interesting I don't know if you'd even call it a strength of the bad thing, but just kind of something that was incidental, where they noticed there was a personality change when you become an alien. Like, you're not the same person. The person is mimicking you, but it's not a carbon copy. Like, the alien is doing their best, but there's obviously a difference in personality. So people who have made, like, for example, the football guy, he's like quitting football, and the girl was like, "Hey, that's weird. That means you might be an alien." I think that was kind of an interesting like, at first it's like, "Ooh, that's a weakness," because you can tell the difference. But then you think about it, like, I don't know, it'd be hard to tell that because people are always making changes in their lives and doing weird things, like, nobody's predictable. So it's kind of a weakness and a strength almost at the same time, where it's like, if it's someone really close to you who you know really well, it might be easy to tell that they're an alien, but, um, I don't know. That was just another thought.
It is kind of difficult to weigh in on because most of the transitions are like really in your face, right? Or like the coach goes from being like a borderline abusive piece of crap to being like really smiley and really pleasant
Yeah.
in kind of an unsettling way. And then the one teacher goes from being a freaking cartoon of a mouse, I guess, to being like the most sexual human being you've ever seen in your life. Which, by the way, like, this was in 1998, and I'm not going to duck under the excuse of like, it was another time. Did we really have to have like an undertone in this movie of, oh, this English teacher wants to fuck the student drug dealer? He's gonna bend her over her writing desk, if you know what I mean. Like, and the movie doesn't even stamp it out at the end. Like, the last we see her, she's like waving at him at football practice, like hinting like, yeah, there's still a flirtation here. And it's like, what the fuck? What? Why? So yeah, that's a thing that shouldn't be in the movie, and I'm making fun of it because it's stupid.
Great point. Great point.
Anyway,
another thing, another strength to consider is like physically harming them, like even with gunshot wounds, like decapitation, you can't kill them. It's like only through like drying them out, So it's kind of like your conventional ways of being like, oh, well, I just do this. That kind of goes out the window because, we see again and again, like if you chop off a body part, it's almost like a hydra where like that becomes its own entity and part of like the hive mind. So I don't know, just something to think about as we talk about survival.
Definitely a strength of this creature that like when it infects you, it's like the very like base code of your DNA is changing, which is kind of weird and crazy, but also huge weakness that I can't believe it took us like 40 minutes into this podcast to point out this weakness is that these things are like full Phantom Menace status. Kill the mother, the rest of them just immediately die. Like if they're not getting instructions, they're all psychically linked to the queen, I guess. So once the queen dies, like they don't know what to do, so they just crawl out of you and die. So like it's the weird thing of like the very like DNA of a person seems to be changing to make them indestructible, but also they will fully go back to normal as soon as the worms die.
Right.
Like I feel like you would not be normal after that. I feel like there's a part of the end credits we don't see, which is everybody that had a worm in them now is like a X-Man level mutant.
Jean Grey, she made an appearance in the movie.
That's true. Professor Jean Grey. Before she was engaged to good old One Eye, she was porking a teenage drug dealer.
Yeah.
We've all
It's a
been
classic move. It's a classic move.
Right.
Here's another thing that I think is an interesting choice in the this is like both the character's choice and the bad thing's choice, so I think I could say it here. The thing, it was not super clear that this was the only place it was. And again, that's kind of a weird character assumption that they're like, this is ground zero. This is where it's at. For all they know, this could be happening to every single high school, right? I mean, there wasn't a large panic, but it's the way it was infecting was semi subtle or semi stealth mode, right? So I think that's almost, it's interesting. I'm trying to think of how to put this into words. I think it is just convenient that everything they thought was exactly what happened, where there was one thing, and the one thing was hanging out with them, even though they had the thing that could kill the thing. Anyways, that was not a full thought, but in my head, I was like, man, what if it was multiple schools and the queen could just be in Alabama or could be in Iraq? Like, that probably would have been a better plan to not put all your eggs in one school. So
yeah, when I talk about how this movie was clearly like written very quickly, I feel like there are a number of places where it shows pretty bad. And one of the big places it shows is like in how characters figure things out, right? Like the two people in the closet don't see an alien slug go into the nurse, but Casey sits down and has a conversation with Stokely, and between the two of them, they go, "Oh, it's an alien slug." Like we know about the drugs because in defense, Zeke jabs Professor John Stewart in the eye, and that happens to kill the slug. But not John Stewart because he shows up in the end credits clearly after the incident, alive and well. Meaning that I think technically the only death in this movie is the principal who they shoot.
Yeah, they shot her.
They straight shot her in the face. So there's that. I lost my train of thought. Right. So like the logic of that makes sense. They're like, oh, the alien is confirmed. We saw weird tentacle things coming out of Professor John Stewart. We injected him with drugs. That's a place to start. So then they take a sample, they give it to the mouse or whatever, and then they put the drugs in the mouse, and they're like, oh, okay, it's the drugs dried out. All of that makes sense to me. And then while they're all sitting around, Stokely and Casey do more theorizing and they go, maybe there's a queen, and that ends up being correct. So like writing wise, there is like some really big jumps that are made where like Adam said, it's like the writer needs them to get to a conclusion that just so happens to be right. This is going to be a hot take, but like the one thing that really gets to me about this movie every single time is I feel like as an audience member in a horror movie, and I hope this doesn't come across as sadistic, but like you want the characters to survive the movie, but you also know that the character has to earn it. I think that's part of why we do what we do, right? Where we go like, how can you think your way out of this? What's the smart way to do it? Is like horror movies, like surviving has to feel earned. And so for this movie to have like such a bright, sunshiny, like everything was fine, happy ending, every time I see it, it's like so weird and disjointed and makes no sense to me. It's the most unearned happy ending I've ever seen in a horror movie. And so I totally get where Adam's coming from, because it's like everything is too easy and it's not earned. So by the end of the movie, you're just left with this feeling of like, well, something must have gone wrong somewhere, right? Like there must be another school where this is happening, or there were actually like 300 queens that landed on this planet and they only bumped into one. So like I totally get what you mean by that. Like in terms of weakness of character and strength of the alien entity is like these dumb kids just happen to stumble into the correct answers like while theorizing with each other. Like I bet there's a queen, and I bet if we inject her with drugs, all the other slugs will die. And yep, that works. So like I totally get what you mean. Like like the aliens are an enigma and the characters don't do much to unravel it.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a good bridge to talking about the characters a little bit more in depth. Given
Terabithia.
Yeah. I haven't seen that movie, so I can't really bounce off of that with anything quippy or fun, except that apparently it's very heartbreaking, but that's all I know.
I mean, somebody definitely bounced off of something in that.
I feel like I would.
There'd be a stronger reaction from Adam if he had seen the movie or read the book.
Oh man,
I'm assuming somebody falls off.
Mufasa, yeah.
Yeah.
The big old lion.
Figured it out. The characters. Now, I mean, we are all film buffs, so I feel like it is very easy to say, okay, this is a writing problem. But let's just take it in. These are the characters. This really happened. What were the choices? Were they geniuses? Were they just super smart? Were they just super, super lucky? What choices did they make? Strengths, weaknesses? What are the thoughts about the characters? Or I will say more specifically, the victims.
The Vicky Timmies. Yeah, I mean, obviously I just pointed it out pretty at length, but yeah, they kind of just stumble into the right answers, and they really kind of just get through like purely by luck. I don't know. It's interesting because if I put myself in their position, thinking of like who I was back in high school, probably would have been one of the dopes that's just lined up outside the principal's office going, guess we're getting ear exams. Probably, yeah, like Lappin and I are probably standing together in line talking about what do high school boys talk about? Like boobs? I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
High school boys, yeah.
We as men would never.
Just a high school boy problem, man. So glad those
we
days are
we
done.
as men would never.
Yeah.
Our palate is so sophisticated now. Now we mostly talk about ass. So like,
yeah, I'm a butt guy now, so it's
I was gonna say feelings, but that too.
Lance is like personality, please. Come on,
Guys.
It's like this. It's like those TikToks where it's
Give
like
me that ghost.
Where there's like the different options of like what's your favorite thing about your girlfriend, and it says like ass, boobs, and you see a hand come in and write down like her personality, and then check the box next to butt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's
seen that.
that's how I would describe myself as a person.
Yeah.
I care about your personality, but it's not my favorite part of you.
Man, that was
And
personal. You were talking to the audience just then.
I was actually talking to Lanson, but
Oh,
you can read that however you want to read it.
I'll take that as a compliment. I'm glad you like my body. I like it too.
Yeah, dude, self-love.
Be even better if there was a slug in there, though. Oh yeah.
Then you get some of those sluggy boys.
Oh, those banana slugs. But yeah, I feel like I'm gonna be honest. I was kind of rooting for the aliens to win. I'm like, you know what? Come on, guys, let's bring it home.
It's a hot take.
Yeah, and so when like the queen ends up showing herself, I'm like, idiot! Come on, man! You don't show your full form till the freaking job is over.
You almost had a championship ring on your finger.
Come on. Yeah.
This is a real tangent, but speaking of championships and like we were talking about the big spectacle that is the game at the end where everybody gets infected.
Mhm.
You remember how like in the second scene there's like that really boring faculty meeting where they're talking about how they have like no money and they're going to have to cut the budget across the school. Then at
Yeah.
the end we see that massive football game with like that huge fireworks display and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, so that's where all the money went."
That's where the budget went.
can't go to
yeah.
the drama department.
It is a
That's what they said.
football town.
Yeah.
And for those of you who maybe didn't understand this joke, there's a line towards the beginning where somebody says, "Well, the drama department wants to do Guys and Dolls," and the principal says they can use the set from our town. The joke for anybody out there who's read the play Our Town is that it is purposely written so that there is no set. It is all imagined by the audience.
Very
So,
nice.
funny little joke that I've now ruined by explaining.
Good. Very good. Enhanced, I would say.
This is a really random thought, but
Mhm.
Elijah Wood at the beginning of the movie, the coach
That's hilarious.
said something. I know. I'm not even getting it to it yet. At the very beginning of the movie, he said, "I do not run unless something's chasing me," or something like that. I forget
Yeah.
what. Then at the
Yeah.
end of the movie, my dude outruns the entire football team
Jeez,
and
bro.
survives.
Yeah.
Like they are chasing him full sprint from the buses, and he makes it inside and like closes the door, and he's like, "Oh." Dude doesn't run for his life, and he outruns them. I'm just saying he's got some natural talent, and maybe the coach was right.
Built different.
I do think something that's really funny about this movie, this is unrelated to the characters, it's just a comment on the movie, is from like the point of view of structure, like the way the movie was written and the way the movie is directed, Casey, Elijah Wood's character, is clearly the protagonist.
Yeah.
But Josh Hartnett is just so damn charismatic that there's a solid chunk of this movie where you think, is Zeke the main character? And then at the very end, so like during the scene at like with the buses and stuff, where Elijah Wood's giving the distraction, you're like, oh, so Elijah Wood gets infected, and then Zeke is the main character to the end. And then of course it's Elijah Wood who sees things through at the end because he is, from a structure perspective, the protagonist of the story. It's just so funny to me that like everything can be screaming at you, here is the main character, but a character can be so damn likable that you're like, oh, that guy's the main character.
I like that, Zeke.
No disrespect to
Yeah.
Elijah Wood, who is very, very charismatic in his own right and really like honestly, this is a role that a lot of people would probably phone in and it would be terrible. And Elijah Wood really goes at it and makes a very stereotyped character feel unique and feel nuanced in a way that like the audience can relate to. So absolutely shout out to that guy, but also like shout out to Josh Hartnett for just being like a super charismatic actor that even though he's not the protagonist of the movie, you actively forget that he isn't.
Fun fact you
Shout out.
shouldn't look up, but both Peter Jackson and Ridley Scott watched this movie and gave roles accordingly. Black Hawk Down, Ridley Scott, he gave that to Josh Hartnett because he watched this movie. And Peter Jackson gave obviously Elijah Wood, Frodo Baggins, because of this movie. Again,
Yeah.
a fun fact you should not look up.
I think I read somewhere that one of the crew members on this movie heard that Lord of the Rings was being made and said to Elijah Wood, like, you got to submit a tape. And Elijah Wood had never read the books, didn't know anything, but was like, okay, yeah, I guess I could do that. So it's all coming together.
Dude,
That's a fun fact you could look up.
I was laughing so hard just thinking about this dude's getting the crap kicked out of him in this movie. And, just hang in there, Elijah, a couple years down the line.
It's going to be a lot worse.
You'll graduate high school.
Peter Jackson watched the slugs fly into his face at the end, and he goes, this guy, boy, oh boy, we could really kick his ass.
This guy can kick a load, man.
We're going to take him to Mount Doom.
That's right.
Oh, goodness. I would like to hear, do you guys have any specific scenes or character moments that you think were particularly good choices, smart choices, or the contrary?
I got a really smart choice. You take Jordana Brewster, who plays Delilah, and you put her hair up and in glasses, and she's a totally different person. Like,
she's incognito,
I'm like,
man.
Who is this new Is she new here? Wow. Is she the president? I don't know. It's just a mystery to me who this person
Who's
could
that
be.
girl?
Wow.
Is she the
She's not wearing
president?
contacts.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah. You do a reverse She's All That, and it's an entirely new person that I've never seen before.
Wow.
But she's obviously an alien.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah.
That was my favorite lesson I learned from this movie, is if a girl is suddenly like smoking ugly, she's an alien now.
Smoking ugly.
Yeah, like
just
freaking smoking ugly.
Oh, it happens overnight. Boy, oh boy, her hair, which used to be like done, is now like not done. She wears glasses.
Gotta kill her. I don't even care if she's an alien or not. Just get her off the screen, dude.
Make her do drugs and then point a gun at her. I need her to leave.
I'm not gonna lie. I was pretty sad the Hottie McCotter principal didn't make it to the end. I'm like, oh, that sucks. She's really dead. Anyway, that's just something I had to add.
I really love that actress because she was in Jumanji, which is important in my childhood.
Exactly. That's where she's from, that I know her from. Anyway,
but also, like, how mean-spirited is it to make a movie where you walk back every death and everybody gets a happy ending, except for the principal who's trying her best?
Mm-hmm.
What does she get? Stabbed by scissors and then shot in the face.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Maybe they did walk her death back somehow, because like the other girl freaking got decapitated and she was fine at the end.
Fine. Yeah.
But I don't know. It feels like they shot her and then doused her in the drugs. So I don't think the Worm Boys would have had time to heal her before.
She looked pretty bad.
So yeah, it just like really mean-spirited to have exactly one kill in this movie, and it's a working woman who's trying her best.
I know.
It's like in Jurassic World when like there's that one assistant who's just trying to babysit the boys, who gets like the most like terrifying death of the franchise, and you're like, why did she deserve that? What?
I know.
Yeah. You didn't give that to D'Onofrio? His character's not super likable.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know about this stuff.
I'm thinking about the beginning of the movie, and I think something that I'm trying to. These characters made some decisions that were questionable, but I would like to give the benefit of the doubt in some places. Everyone was like, "Wow, something is off." Pretty much everyone was saying that for a while. Like, I thought it was interesting that, sometimes in these kind of movies, someone's like, something's going wrong, and everyone's like, no, nothing's going wrong. I mean, they say that with Aliens, but this one, everyone's like, yeah, this something feels weird, man. Like a lot of characters actually said that. They're like, do you notice there's a vibe going on that's not super good. So I thought that was interesting. People picked up on the vibe pretty quick, and that's a little, good job, characters.
One thing that felt super realistic is when Casey's like, they're aliens, and everybody's like, you're stupid. And then Professor John Stewart walks in and is like, hey, what are you guys talking about? And Zeke's like, oh, Casey just thinks you're an alien. Like, that is 100% what would happen in real life. And obviously ends up working out because Professor Charles Stewart's like, they're on to me, and he locks the door.
Yeah.
So, like,
who told you?
In terms of like a moment in a movie where I'm like, that could 100% happen in real life. Yeah, that. Like, I would tell a teacher, like, oh, it's no big deal. He just thinks you're an alien. And then, I'd kill him with the drugs in my pocket. So that's pretty easy.
Pocket sand.
Classic. Of course, he wasn't really dead, though. He showed up in the end credits just to retcon. Just, at the end of the movie, you're like, well, I guess 2 people really died. And then they retconned one of them.
He's a fan favorite. They couldn't kill him.
How could you kill Professor John Stewart? Everybody loved him.
Professor John Stewart.
I don't remember his name.
My favorite X-Men character.
Professor John Stewart. Also, it's high school. I don't think the dude's a professor. I mean, maybe he is.
I don't know.
He has connections at the university, man.
He can mail stuff to the university.
Also, very small thing, but like early on in the movie when he's like, I think you found a new species. We'll have to send it off to the university. He asks like the university is going to take a look at it and then within hours be like, yep, you found a new species. Like, just for context, they recently discovered a new species of frog. When I say discovered, they found this thing fucking 9 years ago. And only now do they have enough research and enough study on the thing to declare it a new species. That happened like recently, like within the last few weeks. So when this guy's like, I think you found a new species, really like the conversation they should be having is, how do we gather data over the next 15 years to prove that this is in fact a new species? He's acting like, I'm going to mail it off to the university tomorrow. You will be the discoverer of a brand new species. That's not how it works.
High school kids don't know that, though.
I also love...
if you're watching this movie and you're not me, would you have cared about that at all? Go ahead, Lancet. I'm sorry, I did cut you off there.
No, you're good. I was just going to say, I love that you know that fact about frogs. That's amazing.
I'm very predictable. Like, my brothers and sisters will go on walks, and if they see a turtle or a frog, they just text it to me. And I mean that very genuinely. I got a text from my brother-in-law earlier today because he saw a turtle at work. So he took a bunch of pictures and sent them all to me. Yeah. Just who I am as a person.
We know Luke's weakness now. If I was a body snatcher, I would be a turtle.
I'd be a frog.
If I could be anything, I'd be a turtle.
Nice.
I didn't ask to exist as a human, but I'd ask to exist as a turtle.
When you reincarnate me, make me a turtle.
Please.
You could live like 200 years. It'd be sick.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
I mean, the life expectancy for a human, I think, is like 85 years. I barely want to do that. If I was a turtle and you were like, do you want to live for 400 years? I'd be like, hell yeah.
Yeah, dude. Right.
Self-confidence of a turtle, man. It's
learn
high.
Some ninja skills. Eat some pizza.
When your head just looks like a dick, I mean, you're just like, I know I've got the looks, man. This is
I already
gonna take
have
me for
that,
hundreds of
so.
years.
I've already got that going for me.
Okay, I thought Adam was saying that about you in the present tense, like you already look like that. I'm like,
no, when you're a turtle. You ever seen a turtle's head?
Of course I have. What am I, Amish?
What are you, Amish?
I thought Adam was going to keep going. It was going to be like, you ever seen a turtle's head? You ever held the turtle's head directly next to your penis and compared?
Don't do it with a snapping turtle, though.
Alligator snapping turtle.
Jesus.
I guess now I'm circumcised.
All right. Let's any other thoughts about characters, character decisions, characteristics, weaknesses, strengths?
It's not related to survivability, but I don't understand why Casey and Fast and Furious had to get together at the end.
The ending was weird. I feel like it was such a weirdly flowery, like everybody, all the weird, creepy guys got the girls. They're all happy. It's all good. He's on the news. Like, it was weird. I was like, this is a dream, right? And then they're like, oh, no, it's just the end of the movie.
Like I said, it's like so flamboyantly happy that you're like, there's no way this can be real because it feels so unearned. Probably like the scene in this movie that possibly aged the worst is the scene where he's like, you know, you're pretty cool sometimes when you're not being a grade A bitch. And it's like, we've seen this and like, we've seen this so much, you guys. So many things where like a woman gets called a bitch and she's like, or like the one guy who gets her, is like, you're really cool, but sometimes you can be a bitch. And she goes, sometimes I am a bitch. And she changes her bitchy ways and gets together with the guy who made no change or effort in his life to better deserve her, other than save the world. I get, oh, that's not a great comparison.
He did save the world.
He did say, no, my hands are tied. My hands are tied. He saved the world. He deserves bitches. That's how it works.
That's them's the rules. I don't write them. I just keep
it's
them.
written in the Constitution, man. Now I know why the Republicans are saying we can't alter that. I get it.
Nothing you can do about that, Luke. I'm sorry.
Dude. James Monroe, you're a freaking homie. Oh yeah, I got certain inalienable rights, my man.
I'd call this the pursuit of happiness.
I'm about to show off my quill pen. Oh, write my name in the books of history.
They'll get a glimpse of my John Hancock.
Oh, yeah. I may be a minute man, but you will remember this tea party.
Wow. That was pretty good. You got anything else, Lanson, character-wise?
You know, I don't think so. I'm just a little bit bummed that, you know, these snot-nosed kids won in the end.
Hate to see it.
I forgot that you were pro-alien.
Yeah, he's pro-alien.
Yeah, bro.
Let's see.
As
soon as she showed up nude in the last scene, he was like, you had me. You had me at hello.
To be fair, when the T-1000 was like being a good person, I'm like, you know what? Is it? I mean, would it really be that bad if he didn't go back to his original self? Would the world be that much of a worse place if he was actually nice? I mean, hey, he wants water. Who doesn't? Who can't live without that stuff?
Oh, speaking of.
Stay hydrated. Make it loud.
Luke is literally drowning himself on camera. We're about to watch a Prestige right now.
Oh, man.
I know this is like primarily a podcast, but more and more I'm telling myself that people who don't watch the podcast on YouTube are really missing out.
Yeah, missing out, bro.
Some of these bits are getting incredibly visual.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Yep. They're missing heads and dicks and all sorts of stuff. So you better.
You missed when you missed out when we showed our full dicks on camera. YouTube let us put it up. They were cool with it.
Yeah. It's because we saved the world. We can get away with anything. It's pretty great.
It's an
Did we save the world?
Right, bro.
Did we?
Let's see. This is what I've been trying to set up. Let's see if these snot-nosed kids, I'm pointing to myself for you people who aren't watching, these snot-nosed kids can win in the end. It's time for your favorite segment, Final Girl and Final Boy Status. Final Boy Status means you make it pretty far, you don't make it in the end. Final Girl Status means you get the girl, you get a kiss her on the lips, you're a superstar, you saved the world.
No kiss on the lips for Final Boy statuses. No way.
You die.
No, you die. Literally,
it would kill you. It would be like poison.
It would kill you to be Final Boy.
It would be like the band Poison.
You don't want it. You don't want it either way. So, we're gonna go around. I want to hear: can you get Final Boy status, and can you get final girl status, and how would you do it? Let's start with Lanson. Let's start at the bottom here of the screen, not in like in a social way.
No, you're correct in both senses.
No, I'm not.
Who's the bottom totem?
Are you calling Lanson a bottom?
He is I would bet a lot of money that Lanson is a bottom.
You would lose a lot of money.
He's a notorious power bottom, like Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yes, I remember that in the book, coming up very vividly. I'm the ghost of Christmas sexuality.
What's embarrassing about that is that was a reference, that was an inside joke to something between me and Lappin, and he didn't even remember the inside joke.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry, man.
Swing and a miss.
There's too many inside jokes at this point. Oh. What are we talking about? Oh, podcast. Yeah. So I'm gonna give myself final boy status. Because I think I'm smart enough to get through it. And maybe I make friends with the aliens, and maybe they're like, maybe you don't need to be slugged up, man. Like, you already understand the cause right now. We don't need to infect you. Like, you already understand what's going on.
I mean,
so anyway,
we did mention that the queen seemed pretty lonely. Seemed like she needed a friend.
True. Yeah. And I like to think of myself as a somewhat friendly person. So yeah, there you go. Final girl status. I'm gonna give myself that, and I'm gonna tell you why. So, little known fact about me in high school is I loved chemistry, and I had a very close relationship with my chemistry teacher, Winston Walters. And one of the things that we did is we created a chemistry club where we would have people that are like-minded individuals that love chemistry, as well as, this being completely student run, but also very closely advised by Mr. Walters. We created something that is very pure and very blue, but for legal reasons, I will refer to this as Windex. So, with Windex, we had ourselves a pretty good business in high school. I had to pay for college. Teachers get paid peanuts. So, it was a good trade-off. So I bring this up all for the sake of telling you that there are two really key ingredients to make Windex. You need sodium chloride, table salt, as well as laxatives, blueberry laxatives, which gives it its blue color. So what I'm thinking is when I just stumble into the answer because it's convenient for the script, the thing I'm thinking is, you know what? I'm opening the water main and I'm just dumping a bunch of salt and laxative into it. So, even if they infect the town, they're going to have to drink something. So they'll drink that. And what we know as well is, even if you drink salt water, you may think you're getting hydrated, but actually you're really drying yourself out and you really increase your need to drink. So there's that, as well as laxatives. That's coming out the other end. We're talking about ungodly gastrointestinal distress on like a biblical level.
Yeah.
So, if that doesn't work as well, because we make Windex, we also have to have respirators, which comes in handy when we aerosol, a lot of this stuff. So yeah, I think just by drying out these shrimpy boys through salt water and blueberry laxatives, and even if I did drink, you may say, well, don't you have to drink the water at some point? I'm like, well, yeah, I do, but I've eaten a lot of Taco Bell over the years, so I become impervious to laxatives and sodium. So, it comes full circle for me to just say that, yes, I would give myself final girl status for those reasons.
Wow, man.
It's a whole presentation.
That's what it looks like to have brains in these kind of movies.
That's right. Big old fat brain. Lots of gray matter.
Really liked your answer, Lappin, and I definitely don't have to scribble out notes I took on my final girl status answer.
Dang it.
Definitely don't have to cross out a pre-written Heisenberg joke.
Oh boy.
There's a lot of other things you could do. You could go Narcos if you wanted to. I mean, there's a lot of. You could do a Better Call Saul thing, Luke. I'm just throwing out ideas.
I don't
But
know.
it's your
Lanson
turn
already.
now.
I mean, Lanson already went with Better Call Salt. So
Oh,
That's right.
I like it.
it's terrible. Right. My turn. Final boy status. I mean, obviously, I'm giving myself final boy status because I am the protagonist. Not a lot of people know that, but everybody around the world has been wondering, like, who in the world is the protagonist for like the entire world. It is me, just so you know. I'm answering a lot of questions with this one. There's been a lot of theories. Some people think it's Elon Musk. Some people, for a brief time, for a brief period in the '90s, thought it was Josh Hartnett. It does happen to be me. So of course, give myself final boy status. I'm getting all the way up to the end, baby, because I'm a loner and like it's hard to get me out of my element. Hard to get me knocked off kilter. And then as far as final girl status, I'm going to go ahead and give myself final girl status. One, because as it stands currently, most people's bodies are like 70% water or whatever. I forget the statistic. I did recently get a checkup with a doctor and he confirmed that my body is actually 60% Dr. Pepper. So in terms of like my body being a hospitable environment for these little sluggy boys, not so much. My diet is 90% saltine crackers. A lot of Dr. Pepper drinking. If they asked me directly, what's the best way to hydrate yourself? I would tell them Gatorade because I unironically believe that. I wouldn't mention at all that Gatorade only works if you drink water alongside it. And at the end of the day, I fun fact, I spend a lot of time at my brother's pool, which actually happens to be a saltwater based pool. So you go I'm not even kidding about that. That's very real. But you go swimming around in that bad boy. You go home, you shower, maybe you have some ice cream, you call it a night, you go to bed. You wake up in the morning feeling like a strap of leather. You are so dried out. It's really bad. I have to drink genuinely, I have to drink 10 or 11 of these bad boys to stop feeling thirsty after going for a dip in a salt-based pool. So, these guys come to me and they're like, what's human life like? And I'm like, well, I'm a pretty standard example. I only drink Gatorade and Dr. Pepper. It's a lot of saltine crackers and then dips in my brother's salt-based pool. And after all of that, I feel like these guys are like, we got to get out of here, guys. This is not going well. So I feel like I am never aware of the alien invasion, but they look at me as like a potential, they look at me as like a sample of the human species and they go, could we utilize this guy? And the answer is not even kind of. And so they run for the hills. And of course, at the end of the day, there's always good old Head and Shoulders. And I feel like that dries out your scalp enough that, every time I shower and I just rub that in, I feel like the little wormy boys would go crazy. So cheers. You guys thought this was water.
Brains.
This is Dr. Pepper.
I thought it was saltine crackers.
Liquefied saltine crackers.
Blend those babies up.
Saltine crackers and Dr. Pepper blended together.
Dude. Yes.
Dude, that's a slushy.
It's a very thick consistency, I will say.
Yeah.
That is the red bang.
Correct. Yeah.
I can't
sell
believe
it at 7-Eleven anymore. It is illegal.
Wow.
You
It's
will
illegal.
be killed if you try to mix the two.
Yeah. And to be clear, 7-Eleven didn't want it in the store in the first place. I just showed up and put it in one of their Slurpee machines.
It's pretty easy. The security at 7-Eleven isn't that great, I've come to find out.
Do you know what the security at 7-Eleven is? It's an exhausted college student who's sort of vaguely staring at you from behind, a stack of cigarettes. Like, he doesn't care.
Yep.
Accurate.
You guys are smart. And I think I'm not going to be as smart. But I think I'm going to give myself final boy status. I was homeschooled. I didn't go to school. I'm not getting infected. I'm sorry. I was a loner, but I didn't even walk through the front gates. So I got that.
I mean,
But
does make possible infection even weirder though. If your mom's like, Adam, will you come in the closet with me for a minute? Don't let your dad see. Don't let your dad see.
Oh,
yeah, you got a point there. So
I just need to do an ear exam.
If something did happen with the family, it'd be pretty obvious. So I think that is another point in the fact that I'm making it at least not being a final boy. I will be a final girl though, because while I didn't go to high school, I did go to do plays. I was in drama, and so I would be in this production of Guys and Dolls, with no set, I guess. And I got to tell you something. I don't consider myself the greatest actor in the world, but I can tell stale acting. I got to tell you something. I don't think these aliens are good actors at all. I don't think there's no Marlon Brandos, there's no Steve Buscemi's in there, there's nothing. I think one day they'll be like, decent for high school kids, then the next day they're going to be holding the scripts in front of their faces going, I don't know any lines from Guys and Dolls, so I can't do that joke. But
wherefore art thou, Adelaide? Yeah.
Right.
Hand me that chopper.
Yeah.
I will know immediately something's up. I will feel the vibe. I'll say there's something wrong with this school, and I need to do something about it. I drive, and I drive, and I drive to the capital of the United States, Washington, D.C. I put up my hair. I put on some glasses. I walk into the White House and they say, Mr. President, what can we do for you? And I say, we're at the nuclear launch codes. We go to the situation room. I sit down. I point all the explosives we have toward Ohio. And I light that son of a bitch up.
Doing the world a favor. This is an acceptable margin of casualties.
Hear that, Columbus? You can suck it. Oh man,
That's how I survived.
I mean, holy shit! Like mic drop, like the callback,
Perfect.
everything. It was all
Perfect.
elegant. It's perfect. It's perfect. Nailed it, Adam.
You are a
Thank
god amongst men.
I believe the answer to most situations is nuclear explosions. I've come to find.
Of course. Only the only acceptable answer.
Yeah.
I feel like when we're talking about like horror villains, I feel like nuking them just feels like, I think that would get the job done.
That'll do it.
Like, I'm not 100% sure, but that usually takes care of most things. So
I mean, salt, the thing we put our food on, is their weakness. I think a nuke will take care of them too.
Well, that's it. That was the faculty. We're all surviving. Big surprise. We're all very smart, so I think you all saw it coming. Thanks for listening along with us. It's great to be back. This season's going strong again. Can't wait to do the next episode. Before we sign out, what do we got to plug? Do you guys have anything you want to bring to the attention? Expose yourself to the world?
I think we already did that when we showed our full penises on the podcast.
True.
Our inalienable right given to us by James Madison.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Welcome, bro.
Lanson's always got something to plug.
I am James. Oh, yes, I am James Madison. I survived because I combined my DNA with that of a turtle's. Yes, this podcast. Final Boy Status. We have a lot of fun doing it, and I hope it's a lot of fun to listen to. You know, if not, still listen to it. You may find something interesting about turtles, or presidents, or inalienable rights, or aliens, or salt. Anyway, it's very educational, is what I mean to say, as well as funny. But yeah, Final Boy Status, wherever you listen to your podcasts, listen to us.
We've got a backlog. We got some seasons behind us. So if you're not caught up,
Yeah, I got to go revisit some of those early episodes myself just for funsies.
yeah.
I like the lens in which Lanson put that. Just the, hey, check it out. If you like it, that's great. If you're miserable while listening, keep listening anyway.
Could get better. You never know. You got to listen to the whole thing.
Hold out hope.
Gotta hold on to hope that
If you don't
that we'll earn the happy ending.
That's right. I mean, if you don't like season 1, check out season 2. If you don't like season 2, check out season 3.
It's always something to look forward to. I like the optimism in that. And yeah, I mean, right there with you, man. If you like the show, tell your friends. Like, the more people that listen to it, the better. I don't think there's a situation in which you tell your friends and we're gonna get mad about it.
Don't tell your friends that. We're supposed to have a cult following.
Oh, for fuck's sake! This is meant to be a secret. Do you understand? When we post this on the internet, we do not mean for the entire world to have access. This is exclusive content, baby. A baby. Anyway, follow me on Twitter. I'm at Luke Haueter. That's LukeHaueter. I will plug whatever I'm up to there. But I want to second Lance's thing. We're in season 3 of the podcast, still going strong, and I'm having the time of my life. So please come along, and hopefully you'll have some fun with us as we go.
Check out our OnlyFans. We do a porn parody of every movie we watch, and it's a good time.
If you liked when we show our full dicks earlier, boy, oh boy, do I have great news about our OnlyFans.
We read out loud.
Yeah. It's really intelligent stuff.
It's pretty heady, actually. I don't know
Some
why
of-
we don't do as well there.
Some have called it psychological, but of course, women are attracted to intellect first.
That's why they liked
know.
Elijah and
Yeah.
World Savers. So we got both.
Yeah. I mean, it's all coming together.
That's right.
All right, guys. Catch you next time. Have a good one. Stay spooky. We'll see ya.